All right, let's jump right in. We're going to explore a really bizarre puzzle, one that's hidden deep inside Roman history. It suggests that the story of the Roman Empire might just have an ending that's a little, well, a little too perfect to be true.
So think about this for a second. What if history wasn't just, a messy, chaotic series of events? What if some parts of it were actually written, kind of like a story, with a perfectly planned beginning and end? That's the mystery we're unpacking today.
And this whole thing kicks off with what might be one of the strangest coincidences in all of history. We're looking at this incredible, almost unbelievable symmetry between the very start and the very end of ancient Rome.
Okay, so check this out. The legendary founder of the city of Rome, his name was Romulus, right? We all know that. Well, get this. The very last emperor of the Western Roman Empire was also named Romulus. I mean, talk about a perfect bookend to an epic story. But believe me, it gets even weirder.
See, his full name wasn't just Romulus, it was Romulus Augustus, and that single name mashes together Romulus, the founder of the city, and Augustus, the very first Roman emperor. The source material we're looking at points out that he was the only Roman ruler, besides the originals themselves, to have both of these names. It's just an absolutely unbelievable combination for the very last man to hold the title.
In fact, it was so perfect, so on the nose, that people at the time even had a nickname for him, Romulus Augustulus. Our source notes the German version, Romerlein Kaiserlein, which basically means little Roman, little emperor. It was like a joke. And the source argues that with a figure this perfectly named, it's almost as if history itself is playing a prank on us, creating this caricature just to neatly wrap everything up.
So, right about now, you're probably thinking, okay, that is one heck of a coincidence, but it's just a coincidence, right? Well, what if I told you it wasn't an isolated incident? This story goes a lot deeper, because the exact same kind of pattern shows up when we look at the other half of the empire.
And this is just incredible. We see the exact same pattern play out in the Eastern Roman Empire, the one centered in Constantinople. The first emperor, the guy who founded the city, was Constantine I. And who was the last emperor when the city finally fell, 1,000 years later? Constantine XI. Once again, the founder's name bookends the entire history of the empire.
So when you see a pattern repeat itself like that, you have to start asking some serious questions. And this is where we get to the central theory from the source material. We're moving beyond just noticing these weird patterns and starting to ask, what could they possibly mean? Are they really just accidents of fate?
So here's the crucial question. Are these perfect storybook endings just a massive coincidence? Or, as our source suggests, could they actually be evidence of something else entirely? A timeline that was deliberately constructed to have this kind of narrative neatness.
But wait, it gets even crazier. The theory doesn't stop with just the names. It also proposes that there's a hidden numerical code buried right there in the dates. So let's take a look at the numbers and see if we can unlock it.
Okay, so according to the traditional timeline, the city of Rome was founded way back in 753 BC, and the Western Roman Empire officially came to an end with the abdication of our boy Romulus Augustulus in 476 AD. These are our two key dates.
Now, if you do the math, the total amount of time between the city's founding and the empire's fall is 1,229 years. And at first glance, that number doesn't seem particularly special, does it? It's just a number. Ah, but this is where the theory makes its central claim. The source breaks this number down. 1229 isn't random at all. It's a perfectly round 7 centuries, that's 700 years, plus a very specific number, 529. And this number, 529, is what the source calls the construction number. The argument is that this isn't just some accidental remainder, it's a fundamental building block, one that was supposedly used along with nice round centuries, like 700, to invent or at least structure key historical timelines, giving them a kind of hidden mathematical logic.
So let's just recap. We've got these perfectly symmetrical names, and now these supposedly hidden numbers. When you put it all together, it naturally leads to a much, much bigger question about how we view the past.
And we'll end with this thought to chew on. If, as this theory proposes, major historical timelines can be built with perfect story-like bookends and hidden numerical patterns, what does that imply about our entire understanding of history? It really forces you to ask, how much of what we know is raw, messy fact, and how much might just be a really well-crafted story?